Some people believe life changes because of the big moments. A wedding, a funeral, a new job. I don't. I believe life changes because of one unexpected knock. 3 years after my wife Margaret passed away, my house had become painfully quiet every morning. I watered the white roses she had planted along our front porch every afternoon. I sat in the same wooden chair with a history book I rarely finished reading every evening. I ate dinner alone while the old grandfather clock reminded me that another day had quietly slipped away. Loneliness is a strange thing. It doesn't arrive all at once. It settles into your life, little by little, until one day you stop noticing it's there. At 68 years old, I thought that was simply how the rest of my life would be. Then came that rainy Thursday evening. The rain tapped gently against the windows while I dried the last dinner plate. Suddenly, 3 soft knocks echoed through the house. Not loud, not urgent, almost hesitant. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the front door, I froze. Standing beneath the porch light was Emily Carter. The little girl who had once raced bicycles with the neighborhood kids across the street now stood before me as a young woman. She couldn't have been older than 20. Rain had soaked the ends of her chestnut hair. Her cream-colored sweater clung to her shoulders. She held an old backpack tightly against her chest. But it wasn't the rain that caught my attention. It was her eyes. They looked exhausted, as though she hadn't slept or stopped crying for days. "Emily?" I asked softly. She tried to smile. It disappeared almost instantly. "Mr. Parker." Her voice barely rose above the rain. "May I come in?" Something inside me answered before my mind did. Of course. She stepped into the house slowly. Her eyes wandered around the living room. Nothing had changed much over the years. Margaret's favorite rocking chair still sat beside the fireplace. Our wedding photograph still rested on the mantel. The same blue curtains Margaret had sewn herself still framed the windows. Emily stopped in front of Margaret's picture. "I still miss her," she whispered. I swallowed hard. "So do I." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I walked into the kitchen and prepared 2 cups of tea. When I returned, Emily was still standing exactly where I'd left her. She accepted the warm mug with both hands, but never drank from it. Instead, she stared into the rising steam, as if searching for the courage to speak. Finally, she looked up. "I know this is going to sound impossible." I smiled gently. "Life has surprised me enough to know impossible things happen." She nodded slowly. "My grandfather passed away last week. I'm sorry. He left me his house. That's wonderful. It would be..." She lowered her eyes. "If it were really mine." I frowned. She reached into her backpack and carefully removed several folded papers. "My grandfather believed a woman should never face life alone." She hesitated. "So he wrote something into his will." She handed me the first page. I adjusted my glasses and began reading. My heart sank. "The family residence shall transfer to my granddaughter Emily Carter only upon proof of lawful marriage within 30 days of my passing." 30 days. I looked back at her. "Is this real?" She nodded. "I've already spoken with the attorney." I slowly placed the document on the table. "But why would your grandfather do something like this?" "He thought he was protecting me." She smiled sadly. "He grew up believing a husband meant security." She glanced toward the window. "He never understood that sometimes the wrong marriage destroys a person." Silence filled the room. "My parents spent 25 years paying for that house," she continued quietly. "My mother planted every flower in the yard. My father built the back porch himself. They're both gone now. If I lose that house, it feels like losing them all over again." I could hear the pain in every word. Then she looked directly into my eyes. "Mr. Parker, I need to ask you something." I nodded. She took one deep breath. "Would you pretend to be my fiancé?" For several seconds, I honestly thought I'd misunderstood her. "I'm sorry, what?" "Just until the inheritance is settled. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking you to lie forever. I only need someone I trust." And she paused. You're the only person my mother ever said I could trust completely." I stared at her. Nothing about this made sense. Before I could answer, she reached back into her backpack one last time. This time, she removed an old cream-colored envelope. Its edges had turned yellow with age. Across the front, written in handwriting I recognized immediately, were 5 simple words: "For David." "If Emily ever comes," my hands began to tremble. It was Margaret's handwriting. My late wife had written this letter years ago, and somehow she had known this day would come. Margaret had never kept secrets from me, or at least, that's what I had believed. I carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a single folded letter. The paper had become fragile with age. At the top, in Margaret's beautiful handwriting, were the words, "My dearest David, if you're reading this, it means Emily has finally found the courage to knock on your door." My heart nearly stopped. How could Margaret possibly know? I kept reading. There are some promises we make with words, and others we make with our lives. Years ago, after Emily's father lost his job, they quietly fell behind on nearly everything. They were too proud to ask anyone for help. I looked at Emily. She was staring at the floor. Almost ashamed, the letter continued, "Every month, I paid one of their bills anonymously. Sometimes it was groceries. Sometimes the electric bill. Sometimes Emily's school expenses." I blinked several times. I had never known Margaret had managed our finances. She always insisted on paying the household bills herself. I had trusted her completely. Now I understood why. She hadn't been hiding money. She had been hiding kindness. I continued reading. "Please don't be upset with me. I knew you would have helped them too, but I also knew you would have wanted recognition." A small smile appeared on my face. "She knew me too well. Real kindness," she wrote. "Should never expect applause." Tears blurred the words. Then I reached the final paragraph. "David, if Emily ever comes to you, please don't help her because I asked you. Help her because one day, someone may need our family the same way. Love doesn't end when someone dies. It simply finds another person to reach." I slowly lowered the letter. The room was completely silent. Emily quietly wiped a tear from her cheek. "My mother never told me exactly what Mrs. Parker did," she whispered. "She only said, if life ever became impossible, I should knock on your door." I looked at Margaret's photograph above the fireplace. For the first time in 3 years, I felt as though she was sitting beside me again. Still guiding us, still changing lives. I took a deep breath. "Emily, I can't pretend to be your fiancé." The disappointment in her eyes broke my heart. Before she could speak, I smiled, because pretending would be the wrong way to honor Margaret. She lowered her head. "I understand, but," I continued, "I can help you another way." She looked back at me. "What do you mean?" I picked up the inheritance papers. "Does the will specifically say your husband has to be your age?" She frowned. "No." "Does it say the marriage must be romantic?" "No." I smiled. "Then tomorrow morning, we're visiting the attorney." The next morning, we sat across from Mr. Henderson, the attorney who had handled Emily's grandfather's estate. After listening carefully, he adjusted his glasses. "I've reviewed the will several times." He smiled politely. "Mr. Parker is correct." Emily stared at him. "The will requires a legal marriage. It says nothing about romance. It says nothing about age. It simply requires lawful marriage." Emily looked completely confused. "So," Mr. Henderson continued, "there is another legal option." He explained that instead of rushing into a marriage built on fear, Emily could petition the court to demonstrate that the condition violated modern public policy because it unnecessarily restricted her inheritance. Combined with letters showing her grandfather's true intention to protect her rather than control her, the court would likely allow the inheritance without requiring a marriage at all. Emily looked at me. "You knew that?" I smiled. "No. I only knew Margaret would have wanted us to look for the honest answer first." 3 weeks later, The judge approved the petition. Emily inherited her parents' home exactly as they had hoped. No fake marriage, no lies, no impossible choices. Just justice. That Saturday, I helped Emily repaint the white fence around the old house. The same fence her father had built years before. We worked quietly beneath the warm afternoon sun, halfway through the day. A little girl riding her bicycle slowed down and smiled at us. "Are you two family?" she asked. Emily looked at me. I looked at Margaret's old gardening gloves hanging inside the garage. Then I smiled. Not by blood, but by kindness. The little girl waved and rode away. Emily's eyes filled with tears. "So," she laughed softly, "what does that make you?" I looked around the little house Margaret had quietly helped protect for years. Then I answered, "I think it makes me exactly the neighbor your mother and Margaret always hoped I'd become." Sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't a house. It isn't money. It isn't land. Sometimes the greatest inheritance is discovering that someone else's kindness has become your responsibility to carry forward. And I've learned something since that rainy Thursday evening. The family we spend our lives searching for isn't always the one we're born into. Sometimes it's the one that knocks on our door when we least expect it.
Most people watch and forget. But if this story stayed with you, subscribe. Because the next one might change something too.